Hello and welcome to another Mr. Watson YouTube video. If you'd like to see me go through another topic, then please comment down below. Also remember to check the video description for any additional information. Welcome to this next part of the walkthrough that I'm doing, where I'm taking you through the AQA GCSE Maths Higher Tier Paper 1 from November 2017. We've already looked at questions 1 through to 16. In this video I'm going to try and do 17 to question 23, hopefully. Hopefully that won't be too long of a video. I will link in the video description the link to this paper, so I suggest that you attempt questions 17 to 23, and I suggest that you do that right now before watching any of this video. Any questions that you're unable to do, then obviously you'll be able to use this walkthrough as a bit of a guide. So let's get started. So, question 17. It says here that A and B are similar solids. It gives us some information here about them. It says that the volume of B is double the volume of A because the length of B is double the length of A. Is he correct? And then it wants us to explain why he is or isn't correct. Okay, well, let's say, for instance, then that solid A is a cylinder. So we have this cylinder here, it has radius R, it has length L. What would the volume of this be? Well, the volume would be the surface area of the circle times by the length. So circle is pi r squared, so pi r squared multiplied by the length L, pi r squared L. Okay, well, what about shape B then? If its length is doubled, then its radius will be doubled as well, because it will be it will be doubled in every direction. So that will be now 2r, and it will also be twice as long. So the length of this will be 2r, which will be squared to become 4r squared times pi. So that's the area of the circle. The length of this is 2l, so we're going to have to times that by 2l as well. So 2 times 4 is 8, so that is 8r squared pi l. So what's the difference between these? So you say that 8 pi r squared l divided by pi r squared l. All of this cancels and we are left with a factor of 8. So is the volume of B twice that of A? No. And this here is your working out. This here is the question I made the mistake on. So I suppose this is quite important because it lets you know that no matter how experienced you are, no matter how much you know, you can always make just a simple mistake. So here it says circle the two roots of this here. Now think of this as just being A times B equals 0. 2x plus 3 would be A, 5x minus 2 would be B. If you have two numbers that times together to give you 0, it tells you that either A is 0 or B is 0. So in this case that would mean that 2x plus 3 equals 0 or 5x minus 2 equals 0. So then on this top one you would say that 2x is equal to minus 3, and that's where I made the mistake there. I accidentally forgot about the minus. This one here will be 5x is equal to 2, and then this one here you need to divide both sides by 2, and this one you divide both sides by 5. So minus 3 over 2 and 2 over 5, and there are our answers. A bit of a geometry problem, I see. So the diagram shows a triangle and a trapezium. So this here is the triangle and this is the trapezium, and we need to prove that A equals B. Okay, so what can we use to help us here? Well, first thing that we can say is A plus 65 plus 115 plus C is equal to 360. So if we add these two together here, 65 plus 115 is 180. So A plus C plus 180 equals 360. A plus C is equal to, subtract 180 off both sides. So 360 subtract 180 is 180. Okay, so that hasn't really helped us. That hasn't really helped us. You know, we haven't shown here that A is equal to B. Well, what else, you know, what else can we use here to our advantage? Well, if this shape here is a trapezium, that means that these two angles, so I'll label those X and Y, X plus Y are equal to 180, and these two angles here, C plus B, are also equal to 180. So maybe we can use this one here, and we can say that if C plus B is 180, then C would be 180 subtract B. So we can substitute this C in for this C here, and we get A plus, so C was 180 minus B, and that's equal to 180. And then here we have A subtract B plus 180 equals 180. Subtract 180 off both sides, we have A minus B equals 0. So A equals B. And there we go, that's that question done. Not too difficult. Now, my advice for students when you approach questions like this, you might not see initially how to prove that A is equal to B as soon as you see that question. So just do something that you can do. So I started there with adding the middle up, and it gave me this. And I could see here that, well, you know, we don't really want anything with C there. It's asking us about A and B. So having C doesn't really help. So then I looked at the trapezium and used what I know about trapeziums to help me with that part of the question. Okay, so question 20. In 1 month, the number of hours of exercise taken by 10 people are, and it gives us some numbers. What is the appropriate average to use in this situation? Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to use my calculator, which I should have right here. Okay, so as you can see, I don't really go through this very well when I plan the video. I'm not sure where that's going to be visible. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, I'm going to work out here what the mean is first. Now, I realise this is a non-calculated paper, but I'm doing this as a demonstration. So 4 plus 7 plus 2 plus 8 plus 6 plus 5 plus 1 plus 82 plus 3 and 9. So altogether that's 127. If you divide that by 10, of course, you'll get 12.7. So the mean is 12.7. Okay, so of course I didn't need to use the calculator there, but I suppose it was just a little bit faster. I was less likely to make a mistake. The median we'll come on to in a second. The mode is whatever is most common. So there was only 1 1, only 1 2, 1 3, just 1 4, 1 5, 1 6, 1 7, 1 8. Okay, so the mode, there isn't any one mode there. I suppose that they could all be considered the mode. So that there is, you know, that's, you know, nothing, you know, that answer there isn't appropriate. Okay, well, what's the median? Well, to work out the median, first of all, we need to list these numbers in order of size. Okay, so they're all of the numbers in their order of size. So to work out the median, it's simply, you know, the middle one. So cross off the two end ones, and you keep doing that until you get to the middle value. Now here, you know, there isn't one middle value, it's going to be in between them. So the median will be 5.5. Okay, well, have a think now about what these represent. These are the amount of hours that people spent doing exercise in 1 month. And we're trying to say, well, is this a more appropriate average to use, or is this the more appropriate average to use? Now, I would argue that it would be the median. And I would say that it would be the median because 5.5 is close to quite a lot of these values. 12.7 though is quite a lot higher than most of these values. The problem here is this value of 82. This 82 is making our mean go much higher than what it needs to be. So if it wasn't for that 82, our value of the mean would be much lower than this. But you know, we don't have a set of data that doesn't have the 82 in, so we have to include it. So this 5.5 here, well, you know, it's really close to all of these middle values here, and it only falls off on a couple of the values further away. But the mean, well, that's quite far away from most of these values. So that's why we pick the median. And that's why normally you will use the median when you are looking for an average of a set of data. So if you're looking at average wages, for instance, median is a much better way to go than mean, because with the mean, just having a few people that earn vast sums of money can make it seem like everybody earns a lot of money, and of course that's not true. So give one reason for each of the other two averages as to why they are not appropriate. So the mode there I explained. So the mode, you know, they're kind of like all modes. There is no one mode. And for the mean, the reason there that you could put is that the 82-hour one pushes the mean higher, or something like that. So yeah, so that's why you would use the median there, the middle term. Question 21. Points A, B and C are all on the x and y axis respectively there. The area of the triangle is 28 square units. Work out possible coordinates for A, B and C. Okay, well, first of all, I don't like the way this is drawn. The way this is drawn here, it's kind of suggesting that this length here of, you know, from the origin to A is larger than this length here. But it says that it's not drawn accurately, so you could say that whatever this length is here, I'll just call that A, well, you could say that that distance there is the exact same as this distance here. Because it's not drawn accurately, you're allowed to do that. Okay, so that would essentially make this an isosceles triangle. And if you want to work out the area of a triangle, you would say that's a half base times height. Now, the base of this triangle will be the distance from A to B. So I'm saying there that the length of that is 2A. And the height of the triangle will be the distance from the origin to C. So I'm actually just going to call that C. And then don't forget, then we've got to times that by half as well. And it says that that area is 28. So these twos here will cancel, and we're left with 28 equals AC. So the distance from A to B multiplied by the distance from the origin to C must give us 28. Well, here you might get a bit stuck and say, okay, well, how do we decide what numbers to put in here? Well, you can actually just make it up. You can say A is equal to 2, because it's only asking here to work out possible coordinates. It doesn't say that there is only one true solution here. So I'm going to say then that A is equal to 2, so that would mean this distance here was 2, and that distance there would be 2. So coordinates of A and B, we can say they both have an x coordinate of 0, of course. The y coordinate of A will be positive 2 and the y coordinate of b will be negative 2. If a is 2, then that tells us then that c would be equal to 14, because 28 divided by 2 is 14. So the x coordinate of c would be 14 and the y coordinate would be 0. So there we are. Quite a straightforward question. That's why it's only worth 2 marks. The key here is that you need to recognise here that it's perfectly acceptable to say that these are both the same length, even though the way they've drawn it, it looks as though they're not. Okay, so this one here I did a little bit ahead of time, just so that I didn't have to spend time drawing this. When you want to work out a cumulative frequency, first of all you'll add up all of these cumulatively, so you'll say that 6 is just 6, 16 plus 6 is 22, 28 plus 22 is 50, 10 plus 50 is 60. So that's how we get that. And then you plot those points, and how you decide where these are plotted, if this is between 40 and 50, then you put it at the 45 mark. So 45 and 6 there is one of the points. This here will be plotted at 55, so 55 and 22. So you find where 55 is, 22, so I plotted another point. And then once you've plotted the points, you draw a nice smooth curve through them as best as you can. Okay, so it says here, use the graph to work out the interquartile range. Well, the interquartile range is the... To split the data up into quarters, you would say, okay, well, half the data would be at 30, a quarter of that would be at 15, and 3/4 would therefore be 45. So the interquartile range is talking about this value here is 3/4, this value here is half, oops, and this value here is a quarter. The interquartile range is talking about the range between these values. So at the 3/4 mark, that looks to be about 63 maybe, and the 1/4 mark looks to be about 52, let's say. So the interquartile range would be the range between these. So 63 subtract 52 would be 11. And I'll just put that there as well. So 63 minus 52. Depending on how you drew your curve, you might get very slightly different values to this, but normally in the mark scheme they do allow you a bit of a range with these values. So in the mark scheme it may say that anything between 9 and 13, for instance, is acceptable. I don't actually know what the mark scheme says, I haven't looked at it, but they do always have a range. And finally, the final question here that we're going to look at, 23, the equation of a curve is this. Circle the coordinates of the turning point. Okay, well, if I draw this, so this is our curve here, so now obviously I know what these values are from the equation, but how do you find out what these values are? Well, you need to know here about your functions and how things relate to each other. If you have y equals x and you do this, if you go from a function and then you just add 5 onto it, that there is going to shift it up by 5. So shifting it up by 5 means that the bottom of your curve will go from being on the origin to being 5 up. So that means a y value of 5. So the y coordinate here that we're looking for needs to be 5. So that means both of those can't be the answer. Now here we have f of y equals f of x going to f of x plus 3. When you have this, that is a shift left of size 3. Or alternatively, you could say that it is a shift right of -3. It doesn't really matter how you define it. So shift left of 3, that means the x coordinate would be -3, not +3. So that's that one. So that's the final question there that I'm going to go through. This transformation of functions, has been a requested video. I do intend to make a video on this. When I get round to that, I will link it in the video description for this video as well. But in the meantime, I hope that this walkthrough has been very helpful for all of you. Please comment down below if you'd like to see anything else, if you'd like me to make a different video. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate every view and every subscriber. If you would like to see me go through another topic, remember to leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time.